This is how to read Jin Ping Mei Chapter 13 in the embroidered portrait version. Li Ping'er made a secret appointment across the wall, and the Yingshan girl peeked in and stole the light. 1. The hibiscus on the embroidered face makes a smile, and the duck flying sideways is lined. With fragrant cheeks, the hibiscus on the embroidered face smiles, and the precious duck flies sideways to line the fragrant cheeks. Only when the eyes are moved are people guessed. One side is charming and full of charm, while the other half is full of tenderness and hatred. The moon moves and the shadows of the flowers come back again. The rewriter of the embroidery version calmly installed Li Qingzhao's Huang Shisha before returning to the book. Hey, a beautiful little love poem has turned out to be a portrait of an adulterer in an adulterous woman, and the female lyricist, Izumi Yuji, doesn't know what to think. Li Ping'er finally came out after being long awaited, but in fact, her appearance was unusually low-key. Explained from the perspective of narrative techniques, it is this low-key that allows us to have a buffer against the noisy and lively competition scenes in the first 2 episodes, and to be fully prepared. The new story is about to begin. Let us first examine Li Ping'er's image in detail. On this day, Li Ping'er was dressed like this. Jia Yujian wore a silver hairdo, a gold-inlaid purple pendant, a pair of lotus root silk shirts, and a white gauze skirt with threaded edges and a pair of red mandarin ducks exposed on the skirt. The phoenix's beak is pointed and its feet are pointed. In Xiamen King's eyes, she is like this. She is very fair, with a short figure, melon, seed face, and thin eyebrows, and her soul is flying to the sky. Li Ping'er is at least considered a noble lady in Qing County, but her clothes at home are still quite simple. In terms of appearance, he has an oval face, fair skin, and soft eyebrows. In terms of stature, he is short and has small feet. Obviously, this is not like beauty in our modern aesthetic sense. At least it doesn't hit the point. However, in Xiamen King's eyes, there are all advantages here, including being short and fair. In any case, this face-to-face meeting made Xiamen King's soul fly into the sky. Out of respect for the aesthetics of the ancients, we have to give in Li Ping'er is also the top beauty in Jin Ping Mei, not necessarily better than Pan Jinlian, but Pan Jinlian cannot compare with whiteness. Let's take a look at Li Ping'er's background. There is an introduction in Chapter 10. It turns out that Hua Zixu's family name is Li because she was born on the 15th day of the first lunar month. She was given a pair of fish bottles on that day, so she called her Ping sister. She first became a concubine with Liang Taishu of Daming Palace. Li Kui killed the whole family. Liang Zhongshu and his wife escaped separately. Mrs. Li brought 100 large western beads and a pair of sapphires, and went to Tokyo with her adoptive mother to visit her relatives. At that time, eunuch Hua was transferred from the imperial class to Guang'an to guard. My nephew Huazi had no wife, so he asked a matchmaker to arrange a marriage and marry him as his wife. When the eunuch went to Guang'an, he also took him to Guang'an and lived there for more than half a year. Unfortunately, eunuch Hua was ill and retired at home because it was Qing County. He has lived in this county. Now that eunuch Hua is dead, more than a penny is in Zixu's hands. The introduction is very long, let me summarize it. 1. Li Ping'er came from a good family and had a dedicated adoptive mother, namely Lao Feng, who pimped Wang Liuer later in the article. Comparable to Wu Yunyang's Qianhu daughter, at least much better than Pan Jinlian. 2. Taking Liang Zhongshu as his concubine, Zhang Da's family background is much higher than that of Pan Jinlian. 3. Bringing jewelry to marry eunuch Hua's nephew Hua Zixu as the main wife. Hua Zixu seems less reliable than cloth merchant Ang Zongxi, but the Hua family is richer. 4. Eunuch Hua and Li Ping'er have a good relationship. They were promoted and took their niece-in-law with them. After eunuch Hua died, all his property was left to Hua Zixu, or to be precise, to Li Ping'er. In terms of quantity of heritage, it should be far better than Meng Yulu. To sum up, Li Ping'er is good-looking, fair and beautiful, with a good background and extremely rich. Oh my god, someone who surpassed the original by few. My Meng Yulu in Qing County in all aspects has appeared. This is a super by few who is incomparably rich. On June 24th note, The narrative time of the aforementioned Jin Ping Mei is often confused. A few days after Ximon's birthday in the last chapter, it has entered August. There is obviously a problem with June here. Therefore, Jian Xiaofei believes that the narrative time is different. A year later, when Miji was revising his script, he simply changed the date to August 24th. On this day, this super white and beautiful officially met our leading actor, Simon Dogwanren. 2. He has a charming look, and his eyes are quick to guess. But this encounter is somewhat awkward. This is Wu Yin'er's birthday. Our white, rich and beautiful husband is inviting friends to a brothel to hold a birthday party for a prostitute. The male protagonist who comes is preparing to accompany her husband to a prostitute. Just as Pan Jinlian has her pain, Li Ping'er also has her own bitterness. Which modern woman can tolerate her husband openly visiting a brothel like this? Of course, it seems to be possible in ancient times, and it is said that it is even better in Japan. When the husband goes out to visit prostitutes, the wife has to help her husband dress up and go out handsomely. She cannot let her husband lose face outside. Regarding Li Ping'er, Ximon King had expressed admiration for her many times in the past few visits. Li Ping'er also admired Ximon King's name like a thunderbolt. Finally, the two people met alone. What was it like? Ximon King was aghast. So Li Ping'er spoke first and said that Hua Zixu would be back soon. It was a polite comment. Nothing serious. Then the guests were served tea. In theory, Li Ping'er had nothing to do here, but she still, he said through the door. Today he invited the high official to have a drink over there. At least he looked out for the slave and advised him to go home early. The two young men followed him again, except for these two maids and the slave. No one is home. Seems reasonable, right? Guess what happened before his eyes moved? The mysterious signals hidden here are difficult for modern readers to understand. The first mystery lies in looking at the slave's face. You see, Li Ping'er was still hiding behind the door when she was talking. This was an era where men and women were not intimate. Uncles and sisters-in-law did not sit at the same table. And women did not leave the house without leaving the door. Generally speaking, married people there is almost no possibility of meeting Li Ping'er. So how can Ximon King look at Li Ping'er's face? There is only one possibility. That is, Li Ping'er created an opportunity for him to meet, to send her husband home. Later generations once made a joke that the best thing for a man and a woman to fall in love is to borrow a book, see them once when they borrow the book and once when they return it. The logic here is similar. After meeting your husband and seeing him again, the best way is to repay him. The second mystery is no one is at home. What does it mean for a woman to tell a strange man that there is no one at home? There is no 300 taels of silver here. Therefore, Ximon King understands this even more. Remember, the first chapter of the portrait book already stated, there is no one in his family. To avoid his sister-in-law's suspicion, what did Ximon King do next? Wu Yin'er's birthday drink lasted until 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. Ximon King carefully made Zixu very drunk. And because of Li Ping'er's request, he came home with him. At this time, Li Ping'er came out in person to thank him. Yes, she said, I'm a clumsy man who is greedy for wine. He's so tired that I'm so tired of looking at my slave. When I come home, I won't let the officials laugh at me. The woman said, that's right. Because he is acting like this outside and doesn't listen to anyone. I'm so angry that I'm sick here. From now on, when high officials meet him in the courtyard, they look down on me. Advise him to go home early. Your kindness will be repaid. Don't dare forget it. It's really a charming face with deep charm. From looking at the slave's face to looking at the slave's thin face, Li Ping'er's tone has changed slightly. She accepted her hint and Ximon King drunk Hua Zixu in the courtyard, meet again at home, and then lowered his posture. His tone became humble. He admitted his feelings, and quietly promised that favor will be repaid. By the way, if it weren't for cheating and cheating, how much favor would Li Ping'er have for such a trivial matter? And how much repayment should be made? Since rare reporting can't simply treat guests to dinner, right? How strong the second signal of encouragement is. Ximon King said with a smile on his face. What are you talking about, sister-in-law? Why do you want to make friends? I will try my best to admonish my brother. Sister-in-law, don't worry. From then on, he set his mind to plot against this woman. Admonishment is admonishment, and painstakingly admonishment. Simon King worked hard for an affair, and Pan Lu and Deng Xiaoxian all came into use. Needless to say, Pan of Xiao is also the basic factor that attracts Li Pinger. The way Deng works is according to Li Pinger's meaning, to stay home all night in the brothel with Hua Zixu. And idle the function is to walk back and forth in front of Li Pinger's door, flirting with each other until the eyes, mind, and heart period. What is the eye, mind, and heart period? There is a sentence in the poem Youth written by Hanzi of the Tang Dynasty. The eyes and the heart are still waiting for the end, secretly making an appointment with Kinlo. The word final expresses the expectation of appointment vividly. Finally, Li Pinger's inspection ended and sent the third signal to Simon King. The woman gave her numerous warnings to Simon King. No matter where I go, I can at least persuade him to come home early. I will definitely repay my kindness and never forget the official. Is this still the same thing? Yes. But the tone is not the content. Persuading him to come home early may even be an irony. The key is the words good or bad, certainly and determined. We can understand it this way. When a woman categorically uses with so many strong words on it, and probably already in love with her heart to heart. 3. Half a note of love and hatred is conveyed in the deepest feelings. The moon moves in the shadow of the flowers, promises to come back again. Li Pinger sent out the first signal, and Simon King took all the orders. Li Pinger sent out the second signal, and Simon King, Pan Lu, and Deng Xiaoxian all took advantage of it. Finally, Li Pinger sent out the third signal, and Simon King took all the orders. King cooperated head-on. The Hua family and the Simon family kept having banquets, and banquets like relatives. And the chance encounter at night escalated to a reunion during the day. Okay, 3 things have passed and it's time to bear fruit. So Li Pinger chose a good day, the double ninth festival, half a note to express love and hatred, and a letter to invite Simon King to come and admire the chrysanthemums. When we read Jin Ping Mei and A Dream of Red Mansions, we should pay attention to some special days, such as festivals, birthdays, memorial days, etc. We have already mentioned the Dragon Boat Festival and Simon King's birthday before, and in the future there will be Lantern Festival, Pan Jinlian's birthday, Meng Yuli's birthday, Li Pinger's birthday, and other important dates. This time we have to remember the Double Ninth Festival. This is the first time Li Pinger successfully had an affair with Simon King. When we write about the Double Ninth Festival next time, it will become Li Pinger feasted on the Double Ninth Festival with illness pain, which is Li Ping's the most symbolic appearance before his death. The structures echo each other, which further reveals the author's profound intentions. Compared with Feng Liang, everything is under the control of Mrs. Wang. The affair between Li Pinger and Simon King was all written, directed and acted by herself. On this day, the Double Ninth Festival, the 10 brothers ate from day to light time. Li Pinger was impatient. Her initial thought might have been to tell Simon King to drink less and stop getting drunk, and then wait for the others to drink too much and break up the gang. When Hua Zixu fell asleep after drinking too much, she would hook up with Simon King. However, she underestimated the strength of the helpers. Simon King pretended to be drunk and laughed, but Ying had no intention of resting. So Li Pinger had to find another way and drive Hua Zixu directly to the brothel. You like to drink in the brothel. Come back tomorrow. Now we can understand what persuading him to come home early in the 3 signals above means. We have said that the layout of Simon's house is with the garden in the front and the main room in the back. The wall that separates Simon's house from Hua's house next door is the garden wall, which means that this side of the wall is Simon's garden, and that side is Li Pinger's house. Regarding Li Pinger's story in the first half of the text, this spatial structure deserves readers' attention. After Simon King came home drunk, he didn't go anywhere and just waited in the garden. Li Pinger's method was to shoo the dog to close the door and the maid to call the cat. And the sound reached the ears of the partition wall, and Simon King immediately crossed the wall to meet him. In this regard, critics of the embroidered portrait version praised drive the dog and leave the cat. Once you look at the common things, you will find that the sound of bamboo and the shadow of flowers have no such charm. Indeed, the moon moves and the shadows of flowers make an appointment to come again has appeared. And the beautiful scene in the west chamber of waiting for the moon under the west chamber, the door facing the wind is half open. The shadows of flowers on the partition wall are moving, and it is suspected that a beautiful lady has come has also been reproduced in the novel. The matchmaker sends a message. The new year also sends a message. Zhang Shang jumps over the wall. Simon Chang also jumps over the wall. The scene is beautiful, the story is beautiful, and the love is even more beautiful. However, here, we feel awkward no matter how we look at it. Perhaps, the romance of the West Chamber depicts the love songs of young men and women, while the plum in the golden vase depicts the sinful affair of married men and women. A warbler chirped, and a swallow murmured. It was like John Rua meeting the warbler, or Song Yu stealing the goddess. After all, the aesthetics of literature cannot match the cruelty of reality. The author of The Plum in the Golden Vase is familiar with the romance of the West Chamber. This time once again satirizes classical beauty. Finally, the affair was successful. Hua Zixu was still drunk in the brothel, and Li Ping'er no longer slept alone on her bed. Although everyone has their own secrets regarding the affair, according to Simon King's current ability and desire, it is impossible to imagine killing Hua Zixu and occupying Li Ping'er. Li Ping'er would not be as brave as Pan Jinlian to murder her husband. Therefore, their idea is nothing more than stealing once and for all. However, Li Ping'er's understanding of this theft was very different from Pan Jinlian's. Pan Jinlian had also inquired about the situation of Simon's family before, but it was nothing more than inquiring. In her mind, she did not particularly care about Simon King's family. She only wanted Simon King. Her blind and selfish love was not willing to share it with anyone. But Li Ping'er was different. She immediately thought of winning people she arts. I buy some gifts tomorrow and go over to see my aunt. I'm afraid she won't be able to get close to her. If you don't think I'm filthy, I'll ask my fifth mother to be my sister. Tomorrow, I'll ask for the feet of his aunt and fifth mother, and I'll make 2 pairs of shoes myself to show my affection. Li Ping'er said here that she wanted to get close to Wu Yunyang and Pan Jinlian, and give them some gifts to show their love. Let me ask, what kind of love does it express? I think it's just a matter of getting a few familiar faces. Sooner or later, their affair will be made public. And Li Ping'er is also sincere. I have no intention of your husband. I just want to make friends for everyone's fun. I think this probably similar to the humility of Sister Li Gui when she comes to visit. In contrast, Li Ping'er is a person who lives his life cautiously and cautiously, while Pan Jinlian is a happy person who follows the wind and rain as he pleases. Perhaps it is these 2 very different personalities and outlooks on life that determine the thematic conflicts that will never be resolved in the Simon family in the future. For new members of the Garden Beauty Gang, there is no airtight wall in Jin Ping Mei. The secret that Simon King was rummaging around on the wall was quickly discovered by the owner of the garden, Pan Jinlian. What could happen? You must know that she was beaten not long ago because someone reported that she had an affair. Pan Jinlian's first step was to jump up and sit down, holding his ears with one hand, and cursed. What a heartless thief. Where did you bring it yesterday? You made me angry all night long. Let's tell the truth now. In the past, with the next door, how many times did that whore in the Hua family steal? Tell me one by one, and I will give up. But if you hide a word, tomorrow you will pass by with 1 foot, and I will yell at you with the other foot, and teach your heartless prisoner to die without a burial place. Pan Jinlian didn't give Simon King a chance to explain, and went straight to the topic. How many times have you stolen something? This was what Simon King said when he interrogated her last time, and this time she followed the same pattern. Of course, she couldn't whip him with a riding crop, but she also had her own weapon, and started shouting. Everyone knows that you are not a human being inside or outside when you seduce your brother's wife. What should Simon King do now? Soft or hard? Fight with her, or compromise with her? Simon King is very smart. Why would Pan Jinlian betray him at this time? If so, Why wait until now? So, he relayed Li Ping'er's words and said that he would come over to ask his sister to make shoes. For a lady like Li Ping'er, making shoes for you really gives you face. But Pan Jinlian couldn't understand it. Can't I make shoes myself? So Simon King simply transferred the hairpin given to him by Li Ping'er to Pan Jinlian. The poor boy was instantly happy when he saw the real treasure. In that case, I won't say anything. Wait for you to go over there. I'm here watching the wind with you too. Simon King really bought lure, but did Pan Jinlian really forget her righteousness so soon after seeing the benefits? No, she just used Guan Feng to seduce him. Anyway, Guan or not, he would eventually get over it. After all, no one could stop him from finding other women, let alone falling in love with other women. Therefore, the only thing she could do was to take advantage of Simon King's happiness and sell him a false favor in exchange for some actual benefits. Sure enough, Simon King took the bait. Pan Jinlian put forward 3 conditions. First, you are not allowed to go to the brothel. Second, you must listen to her words. Third, if you go to see Li Ping'er, you must tell her. These 3 conditions seem to be less valuable than 2 hairpins, but only through careful analysis can we see Pan Jinlian's power. This is the first time 3 conditions appear in Jin Ping Mei, and it is also the most exciting one. There are also 3 chapters of the agreement between Pan Jinlian and Yu Xiao, and 3 conditions between Chen Jingji and Jin Zongming. This is a narrative technique that not only maintains the interest of the current story, but also sets up suspense for the future. In A Dream of Red Mansions, the attacker there have also been 3 things, from Jin Yang's The Legend of Heaven and Sword of the Dragon. Zhao Min also has 3 things that have not yet been thought of. They are all interesting. First, if you don't go to a brothel, you won't find Sister Li Gui. Although from a woman's point of view, there is not much difference between Li Ping'er and Sister Li Gui. Sister Li Gui is the big enemy who cut her hair after all. If this can be used to distract Simon King's attention from Sister Li Gui, thereby weakening the power of the old people like Li Jiar and Sun Zui, that would also be good. After all, Li Ping'er has already sent a gift. Maybe they can make friends? Second, this is nonsense. If everyone listened to it, the world would be so peaceful that there would be no story. Third, this condition seems to be of no value to Pan Jinlian. As a woman, does it make sense for your husband to come and tell you when he is looking for another woman? For most women, they don't want to know this at all, but for Pan Jinlian, it makes perfect sense. It can be said that this 3rd clause is quite outstanding in Jin Ping Mei. This is where Pan Jinlian is particularly powerful, because before the affair between Simon King and Li Ping'er was exposed, she had the absolute initiative. Of course, if it was exposed, nothing would happen to her, and the garden was a must for an affair. Place. It doesn't matter if Pan Jinlian knows about it when entering the Hua family. But if Pan Jinlian also knows about it when leaving the Hua family, it will benefit a lot. This is because although Simon King has quite a fortune, he is still a commoner. Although he travels around the countryside, he has never seen the big world. Simon King must have an inferiority complex in front of Li Ping'er, who was born in an upper-class society. According to Simon King's character, once he gets something, such as a rare treasure brought out of Li Ping'er's palace, he will not be able to help showing off. It can be imagined that this kind of showing off is a kind of contented happiness for him. And Pan Jinlian is a unique whore who knows and understands her interests. She must be able, and only she can cooperate with this kind of showing off. Although Pan Jinlian may be a little jealous, the rewards she gets are definitely more generous. As what happened later, Simon King passed on everything he received from Li Ping'er to Pan Jinlian. So, for many days, Simon King was beside the garden wall, turning over and over again, either on Li Ping'er's bed or on Pan Jinlian's bed. The women behind had no idea what had happened. The garden beauty gang took over the entire Simon King so easily.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.